In the summer of 2008, I went camping with two of my cousins and a few friends of theirs. I was 14 at the time, Charlie, the younger cousin, was 12, Max, the older cousin, was 18, and Max's friend Pedro and two others were 18 as well. Charlie and I were pumped since Max never really took us anywhere. You know, it's kind of cool to hang out with your older brother or cousin. But we should have known better. Max was nasty from the get-go. Turns out, he only took us camping because his mom, my aunt, told him to do so or else. So Max really didn't like us being there and they treated us like we were a piece of trash. His friends weren't much different, for the exception of Pedro. He was the only guy who would speak to us and also made sure we were keeping up with the group. The time was about 11 in the morning and we had been walking for about 2 hours already. Max told the group that he knew a spot, but it seemed like he was lost, meaning we were all lost. So we stopped after another 30 minutes of hike and began discussing our options. The older guys were talking about compass, directions, the sun and whatnot, but in the middle of the conversation I chimed in, why don't we first go back to where we came from, then try to look for a different spot. At least that way we'd know where we are. Max dismissed the idea with just a simple no. After a while, the older ones decided we were going to continue searching for the spot, and that if they couldn't find it, we would just camp somewhere with a nice view. After another hour of hike, we were completely lost. We had clouds hanging over our heads, and with dense canopy trees to add to that, it got dark real fast in the forest. Technically, I can't fault Max for the clouds since there was no rain in the weather forecast, but still, I kept repeating in my head that he should have listened to me when I said that we should first go back to where we had began our hike. And then the bad circumstances piled on from that point on. Rain started to come down and one of Max's friends sprained his ankle as he slipped on a large boulder. So I told Max that we should set up camp and stay dry until the rain stopped. Not to mention his friend needed to rest his ankle for a little while. The idiot refused to listen. We continued to hike, but at some point, the rain began pouring like mad. I had never experienced rain like that. Between the wind and the rain, I could hardly keep my eyes open. It was that intense and powerful. We were bombarded by nature for the next 20 minutes or so. All we could do was to lean against a tree, cover ourselves with our backpacks, and hope that the storm passes. The rain was gone in time, but it wasn't the only thing that had left us. When everything settled down, Charlie was nowhere to be seen. We looked for him everywhere and screamed his name out loud in every direction, but nothing. Charlie was just gone. His backpack, baseball cap, and his water bottle, they were all gone with him. We managed to find our way back to the base of the mountain and eventually got in touch with the local police. There was a massive search the next day, but they couldn't find a single trace of Charlie anywhere. The search continued for a week to no avail. The day of the camping was the last time I saw Charlie. I wish I could tell you that Max became a better person after that, or that at least he became an alcoholic because of the guilt, but nothing like that happened. Max's parents, my uncle and aunt, they were never the same after losing Charlie. Max, on the other hand, he went on to live his life like nothing had ever happened. I saw him hanging out with his friends and making out with his girlfriend only a week after Charlie's disappearance. If I ever saw a psychopath, it would have to be Max. How could I, the cousin, be more devastated for the loss of Charlie than the brother of Charlie, who is Max? How is that possible? Suffice it to say, I never dealt with that guy again. I avoided any family gatherings that included Max, and I made sure that my younger brother never spoke to that psychopath. I still think about Charlie from time to time. Even until this day, I'm unable to erase the haunting memory of Charlie being so happy that his brother took him camping. It didn't matter how nasty Max was to him. All that mattered to him was that he was there with his brother. I'm so sorry that I couldn't protect him. I still miss him a lot. I work in an office situated on the ground floor of a 5-story building. The thing about our office is that it's enclosed in glass for the exception of the back entrance. So essentially, anyone who walks by can see right through our office. Working in that office is okay for the most part, but there are times when you feel a bit uncomfortable. The story that I want to tell you is the perfect example of why. So about a month ago, I'm in the office by 9 a.m. and straight away I begin working on a project that I couldn't finish on the previous day. I got off my chair at around 9:30 to grab a cup of coffee at the back of the office, and right away I had this weird feeling of being watched by someone. I turned my head to the right, nothing. Then I turned to the left and I nearly soiled my pants. There was a very creepy looking man staring right at me. I looked at him for maybe 3 seconds, hoping that it would sense the awkwardness and leave. It didn't happen, and so I went straight to the manager, then told him about the creep. John, let's just say that the manager's name is John. Well, John walked outside to try to talk to the man, but as he was turning the corner, the man left on his own. Now, it would have been okay if that was the end of it, but this went on for the next 3 days. The creep would come by and stare at me 2 to 3 times a day. He would leave only when the manager went out to try to speak to him. Then came the weekend, and I didn't have to deal with the creep anymore, at least for a little while. Unfortunately for me, the creep had come back on Monday. By Tuesday, I lucked out a little when I saw a couple of policemen walking by. I jumped off the chair and ran straight to them. I stopped them and asked for help. I explained the situation to them and asked them if there was anything they could do for me. The response was very disappointing, although perfectly understandable. The cops told me that they'll speak to the man if they ever see him watching me, but that legally, they couldn't do much to stop him. I mean, it isn't illegal to watch someone in public. The odds of the police catching the man in action was slim to none. The creep kept coming back to watch me 2 to 3 times a day. That went on for another 3 days, and I truly began to worry for my safety. Until then, my coworker walked me to the subway, even though he doesn't take the subway and he usually walks home. But for how long could I ask him to do that favor for me? I had to find a different solution to my problem. So then, as a last resort, I had my boyfriend come pick me up every day after work. He was more than willing, but I felt bad about it. You see, the drive from his home to my place of work takes a little over an hour. It's not easy to do that every day, but still, that was the only way I felt safe leaving work. It was after about a week since my boyfriend had begun picking me up when finally the creep stopped showing. As happy as I was about the whole thing, I gotta tell you, it also freaked me out like you wouldn't know it. Think about it, the creep stopped coming only after my boyfriend began picking me up consistently every single day. That means he was probably watching me go home from somewhere where he couldn't be seen by me. I still get the chills when I think about what could have happened to me had I been too late to ask for help. I could have been abducted for all you know, and God knows what the creep would have done to me. I love my current job, but I think I have to play it safe and go work somewhere else, preferably somewhere where I can't be watched by creeps.